Hey everybody, welcome back to C2 Tactical in Scottsdale. Thank you to them for letting us use the range today with my friend Destiny. And we are shooting for active self-protection extra today. We get this idea. I see this a lot. It's a lot of discussion about the best shooting stance, right? Now I'm not talking here about Weaver, Chapman, ISO, Modern. I'm not talking about that stuff, okay? We've done videos on that. Go look them up on the channel. What I'm talking about today is my feet. And we get this idea of the athletic stance and should I have which foot is the one to go back and which one is how far should my stance be wide and how narrow versus not. And so today we're just going to experiment with it a little bit and let you kind of see us do it as an encouragement for you to go out and experiment too. Today's video is sponsored by DroneQuote. They're your advocate for solar and roofing with unmatched customer service to help guide you in whether and how to go solar with your home. If you want an advocate on your side with competitive pricing and unmatched customer service, DroneQuote's your bet. They're my trusted resource for solar, and you can check them out at the link in the description. All right, I'm gonna tip my hand. Ready? I don't care. The reality is, it's different for different people. Okay, it's really different for different people. Now, if you recognize, I would say, a full-size human. Okay, I am a large human. You are a fun-size human, right? I'm probably roughly twice as big as Destiny, and so how much structure, support, stance? I'm left-handed with a gun. She's right-handed with a gun. That's all very individual. Just like how big a gun do I need in my hands? How do I apply the grip pressures? The principles are universal, but the applications are personal, right? And yet, how much? I mean, and you've taken a good number of classes.
Yeah.
How much time do we spend on? Well, I want your foot a quarter inch wider here. I want you to be a little further back here. I want you to feel and stand this exact way in my gun dude haka.
I mean, there's been some instructors that are really specific, but it's not a whole.
So here's the cool part is that so Destiny's my buddy and my wife's good friend, right? Like been for a long time. So I steered her away from a lot of the goofy ones. And it is some really high quality people that are like, just try some things and see what happens,
Yeah.
So that's a very good thing. But you have had some, you see some instructors that are like pretty dogmatic about stuff and you go, oh boy, okay. All right, now here's a default, okay? I'm gonna give you a default. What I generally tell people is the way to stand is like a normal human doing normal human stuff. And what does that look like? Well, for most people, we stand kind of our feet shoulder width apart as a general rule. Ladies, on the other hand, kind of get taught to stand with their legs crossed. So this is kind of an American piety kind of thing, especially if you're wearing skirts or dresses. You get taught to kind of stand with your feet crossed. I think just as a default. I don't know. Why do you think that ladies get taught that?
Don't get me started.
Oh boy, okay. Yeah, we're gonna have a political, personal rant here. But so I think I'm not sure why in an overall sense, but I see that all the time. You know what I mean? But
it's just like we're kind of taught to be like very closed in general.
Yeah, closed,
So
demure,
like,
submissive.
Right.
That idea, right? I mean, honestly, you see a lady standing there, kind of like in a fighting posture or an athletic stance. You're like, dang, okay, like let's do that. Even little bitty, like I've been watching the Olympics, right? And little bitty 4'9" Simone Biles. I mean, she's literally this big, and she gets up there and she gets into her ready position. You're like, dang, she's intimidating as all get out. You know what I mean? Like, good for her. Total cool stuff, by the way. It was so much fun watching the greatest of all time do her thing. So fun. Anyways, okay. So when we're gonna do anything, if we're gonna do in terms of an athletic endeavor, we're gonna play any kind of ball sport. Volleyball, baseball, basketball, football, whatever. We're going to stand with our feet as a default about shoulder width apart with one foot back a little bit. So then that way we are in what we call a neutral posture. Okay. Now we're going to stand with, kind of chest out, shoulders back, kind of knees bent so that we can move in any direction. I can move forward here. I can move back. I can move right. I can move left with equal abilities, okay? Notice that sprinters, they don't stand like that when they're about to start because we know they're going that way. And so they get a posture that maximizes forward, not in any direction. But we're gunfighting here, so we want to be able to move in any direction that we need to. So just like if I'm a baseball shortstop, right? Also had a heck of a fun time this year watching Elly De La Cruz play shortstop, even though I'm not a Reds fan. I am a huge Elly De La Cruz fan. And watching a shortstop right before the ball gets hit, that shortstop's got to be able to move in any direction, right? You can't. Your 13-year-old plays softball,
Yeah.
right? Now the pitcher, we know the pitcher is orienting towards home plate. Everybody else has to be able to go in any direction,
Right.
right? So we tend to get that athletic stance. Which foot is the right one to be back? Depends on who you are and where you are on the diamond, quite frankly. Because probably as the first baseman, I know there's less chance that I'm necessarily going this way, more chance I'm going towards the middle of the field. It would be opposite for the third baseman, okay? Whereas the outfielder's got to be able to go in any direction. Okay, words. Same thing here in gunfighting. So as a default here, but if I switched my feet to the other side, is that going to be a problem? Depends on how you view stances as a defensive shooter. And I'm going to show you what I mean on that. Because what I teach is we point our head, shoulders, knees, and toes at the target as a general default setting, okay? And so when I go my head, shoulders, knees, and toes at the target, does it really matter if I'm pointed towards the target here? My default is my left foot back because I'm left-handed. But does it matter if I go, does that change fundamentally how I look? It really doesn't. I want you to pay attention to my recoil control, right? So paying attention to how the gun pushes me around with my left foot back. And again, I'm at about shoulder width apart, and I have just a little bit of back pressure here on my foot, okay? So if I'm here and I'm just showing that, let's just say it's about how fast I'm able to shoot. Great. Okay, fine. Then now if I switch my feet, okay, about the same thing backwards. Feels a little weird to me because I don't do this very often.
Yeah.
You know, but again, does this look fundamentally different in my recoil control?
No.
Still able to get the same amount of recoil control. Everything goes and looks the same. Let's be quite frank. Because I'm large, okay, so as of right now, I'm around 205, give or take, right? So I'm a lot less large than I used to be. But because I'm a large-sized mammal, if I put my feet together, now this is bad for mobility, right? So I'd have a hard time moving, okay? Let's make it even worse. So I'll go martial artsy and go a twist stance, right? So this is a twisty stance. This is terrible for mobility, but does it allow me to shoot? Doesn't change much because most of my recoil control comes through my elbows and my wrists, quite frankly, here, and it's all here, so it's not moving me around very much. Now, might be a little different with a human who is significantly smaller than me. Let's let Destiny try this.
And how do you want me to start?
Start however you're comfortable.
It's usually right about here.
Cool. So I just want you to get the gun out. We're not really working on the draw on this one. And what I really want you to start seeing is, I want you to think about how's my dot acting and how's my recoil control, right?
Okay.
So you're just gonna take 2 or 3 to kind of feel, this is your typical, so that you've got a default setting.
Okay.
Good. Now switch your feet. Feel a little weird?
A little bit, but you've noticed that I do switch sometimes.
You do.
So,
This is something that you do, right?
Uh-huh.
So just do that same thing, get a few. Yeah, I'm not seeing a whole lot of difference. How about you?
No.
Now, on the other hand, if you put your feet together, now try and see what it does for you.
Well, that was definitely, I had a hard time controlling it. So
Okay.
my follow-up shots were definitely a lot more
All right.
difficult.
So now, okay, let's try to figure out which one it is. Is it back or is it out that does this different, right?
Mhm.
So how would we do that? Let's keep our feet even width, right? Or an
Okay.
even depth.
Mhm.
And then let's just open them up a little bit. So if you open up halfway, right? Good. You know, so you're roughly kind of hip bones apart.
Mhm.
Try that and see how it does for you. Still pushing you a little bit, a whole lot less.
Yeah.
So now
sure.
try a little wider. I'd go double that wide. Go. There you go.
Nice.
Get. Yeah. So it seems like the width is really doing you
For
pretty
sure.
good.
Yeah.
Now I want you to go like crazy wide. Now I want you to like. Now you're like, what the crap is happening here, right? See what that does. Oh, we better.
Oh, I'm out.
All good. Head up, nice and tall, normal human doing normal human things.
This feels so weird.
Felt like a little weird to you,
Yeah.
right? So okay, so now.
Well, and
let's
that's why, like, I felt like I dropped, like I got all.
Okay,
hunchy.
so now we've kind of figured out that you like kind of about right there,
Right here,
you know?
yeah.
And that's, not only is it probably your best for that, it's probably most comfortable for you too, right?
It feels natural. Yeah.
So if I go ahead and holster the gun, because I don't want to do this with the gun in my hand on the range, right? So if I were to just kind of, prance about here, do the hokey pokey and turn myself around and just kind of settle into what's a comfortable kind of stand, this would be about what I would feel.
Yeah.
I don't ever stand with my feet together.
Right.
I don't. This is weird. You know,
Yeah.
it's super weird. Even kind of this is pretty typical for me. But if I want, to just not have to worry about things, if I'm going to be standing for a while, this is about average for me, about shoulder width apart.
Yeah.
Right. And so it that would make sense to me. So I want you to do that. Kind of turn yourself about. Do some hokey pokey. Destiny was addicted to the hokey pokey, and then she turned herself around. And so now what we're gonna do, we already know this one, okay?
Mhm.
So now we're gonna kind of figure out how much depth is best for you, right?
Okay.
So how much depth? Now, let's be real. In a gunfight, are you gonna think about, golly, man, I need a little bit more depth in my foot so that I can get ultimate recoil control? No, you're
Yeah.
probably gonna be more thinking about moving and that guy trying to kill you than anything else. But if I ingrain this idea of, holy cow, man, I need to come to this place, then my body kind of comes to it as a natural kind of thing, right?
Right.
So I've been doing martial arts now for 18 years, okay? And so I don't have to think much about getting into a fighting position with a good, what we would call in the art that I study, a neutral, okay? A good neutral stance. Because I've done it so many times, it's just kind of what I do. So same thing. Let's kind of think about, all right, we're going to start here. We already did this one, okay? Now I want to kind of go way back, right? I do know an instructor, he's not instructing anymore, really emphasized way back and then kind of locking that knee out to really drive into the front. I want you to try that.
Do you want me to be, so this
Whichever
is,
side is best for you.
Okay. This is probably.
We've already established that side doesn't matter. Okay, go ahead and draw your gun. Okay, how does that back foot feel? Do you feel like you're way back there?
Yeah, it feels pretty far back.
All right, give it a try.
Yeah.
See what it does for your recoil control. What do you think?
I mean, I definitely feel a lot more secure than when I was with my legs wide this way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now let's try in the middle. Tell me your experience.
I feel like my follow-up shots were definitely more controlled. Like I wasn't pushed as much. I felt.
Even though you were more stable with it further back,
Yeah.
you felt more comfortable and like your gun acted better with it a
Right.
little bit further in.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, halve it again. Let's see if we get more halves or if it's too little at that point.
I feel that was, I think is probably more my natural.
That was kind of your regular place. And did you
yeah,
feel,
where I'm at.
how do you feel about recoil control at that point?
It felt good. I think I actually liked it for control a little further apart, but just naturally I end up here.
Okay, so there's an interesting thought. So I would argue naturally we tend to push a balance of stability and mobility, right? So this is a natural thing that especially if like, okay, so if you give me your hand, your hands, don't draw a gun, but if you give me your hands out like you have a gun, right? And I'm going, oh, okay, do I want stability when the gun is going bang or do I want mobility? When the gun is going bang, I want stability, right? I want stability when the gun is going bang. But in a gunfight, do I want stability or mobility?
I mean, both.
Both, and it depends on the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I might need to go, oh no, and step way back into it, go bang, bang, bang. But now I gotta move. Oh crap.
Right.
And so now I'm gonna have to really struggle to get out of this stance to go where I need to go next. And so I think, as a default, hit that spot where I have adequate stability, good stability, but I still have good mobility.
Yeah.
Right? And so that balance of stability and mobility is what, in my martial arts world, again, I'm the student of Lawrence Robinson, the student of Skip Hancock, is what my rank is in. We call that neutral. I can go left, right, forward, and back. I can absorb force and generate force. Is it very best for any of it? No, but it's really good at all, right? It's a jack of all trades.
Well, and I know my problem too is when I stand naturally, I kind of like duck foot out.
Okay.
So especially like when I'm, at the range shooting, I really have to focus on getting so this, even though my feet are straight, if I'm not looking, I feel like I'm like this.
You feel like you're, pigeon-toed?
Yeah, so I don't know how, in a gunfight, where that would end up.
I think the more you practice, the more you kind of end up with that stuff. And where I see people that have the kind of the out foot, this kind of duck foot that you called it,
Mhm.
as opposed to pigeon toes, like this. So this duck foot tends to be, now it's weird because this is opposite of you, tends to be heavier people that have hip problems, right?
Mm.
So you have problems that you've got this gut that's in the front, and I've had that. Okay, so go look at videos of John a year ago, and that tends to be that. And we have some people that have hip problems. When I say point your toes at the target, and they're like, dude, that hurts so bad.
Yeah.
So then you know what I say? Don't do that. Like, if
Right.
it hurts, don't do it. But I also think when I want to generate force, if my toes are out here, I tend to not be able to generate. I can't really put my weight on my toes. It's very
Uh-huh.
much harder. So that's why when I get kind of oriented towards you, if I want to push you over, that's how I got to do it.
Right.
And so I don't want to be pigeon-toed either,
Hmm.
because again, I break down my posture when I'm doing that. So we do the best we can, but you know who has challenges with this? So I got in a car wreck in 2000, right? And I've been told I have the hips of a pregnant woman or an 80-year-old black man. I don't know why black makes any difference, but that's what I was told. Because my pubic symphysis is very mobile, right? Like a lady that's given birth multiple times.
Uh-huh.
My pubic symphysis in the front will come over itself and move around and do the hokey pokey. I can feel it when it does too, and it's painful to put back in. So hey, maybe that's
Well,
a thing.
I have the hypolordosis where like says the sway back.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of
Changes the way that
up
goes.
a lot of things. Yeah.
So what's the overall lesson here?
Yeah.
I think the overall lesson here for you to check out for yourself is that the principle is universal, right? I'm going to probably get myself a balance of mobility and stability. And what's the best one for that? My big worry is, if you're an instructor, here's an instructor moment, is that what is best for you and your recoil control, you impose on your students.
Mm.
And you say, you got to do this because watch me
Yeah.
and let me show you my results, rather than understanding the underlying principle and helping your students with that, because my body type, my strength, my issues anatomically are not yours. So if I understand the principles, then I help you understand those principles. Then we just experiment on the
Well,
range.
and I think that's what that one instructor that I had me do what worked best for that instructor. And then when I came actually shooting with you, it was like a couple weeks later or something, and you're like, do like normal human things. What are you doing? Because I was so
like, I got to get
everything
locked
was
into this.
and it was what worked better for that instructor, which just didn't work for me. So
Okay, hiya, let's be better instructors. And as students and as practitioners, experiment. Now, that doesn't mean we don't listen to people when they go, hey, try this other thing,
Right.
and see what it does for you. And sometimes we got to put it on the magic box of death that tells us, objective numbers, gives us things. Did we get the accuracy we want at the speed we want? Which one is objectively better? Sometimes the one that's objectively better feels weird in the beginning. And so we got to kind of push through the weirdness. But experiment with it a little bit. I think you'll find some form of shoulder-ish width apart and some kind of depth on one side or the other. I don't care which side. For most people is going to be the best choice, but only you can figure that out in the moment. Good shooting today.